My name is Victoria, and I work as an office worker now. It hasn't been easy to get to this point because I've faced many struggles. Most of these struggles came from problems at home and the complicated relationships in our family. My relationship with my mom has been rocky since I was a child. We argued a lot, mainly because of her strict personality. On top of that, I look a lot like my dad, Daniel, which made things even harder between us. My dad wasn't violent or unfaithful. In fact, he was a very honest and kind man. I often wondered why he married my mom in the first place. My mom didn't like him because he didn't earn much money. While my dad worked a steady office job, he always dreamed of becoming a cartoon artist, a dream my mom couldn't stand. Even though we were poor, I didn't have too many problems as a child because my dad was always there for me. His kindness never wavered, and he always encouraged me. He supported me in my difficult relationship with my mom and often said, "No matter what your mom says, I'll make our dreams come true." We didn't have much, but I loved my dad deeply. Despite the tension with my mom, we managed to get along somewhat while I was growing up. But everything fell apart when I started university. My mom and dad's relationship got worse, and eventually, she divorced him. The divorce happened partly because my mom met a bartender at a nightclub she used to visit to escape her frustrations with my dad. This bartender, who was 15 years younger than her, is now my stepfather. I call him my stepfather just for convenience, but he's nothing like a real father. He always addressed me casually with, "Hey, you," and went out of his way to show off his close bond with my mom in front of me. It was unbelievable. After I finished university, I couldn't find a job right away, so I continued living with my mom and stepfather. Then something unexpected happened. My mom got pregnant. Of course, the baby's father was my troublesome stepfather. That's where things became even more complicated. I got a sister 25 years younger than me. Her name was Sydney, and she was so cute that she didn't seem to resemble my stepfather or my plain-looking mother. It might not be nice to say this, but she didn't look like she came from them at all. My stepfather wasn't particularly handsome, and my mother was just average-looking. As for me, I'm neither pretty nor unattractive, but since I look like my father, who my mother despises, she quickly started comparing me to Sydney. "Sydney will grow up to be beautiful, unlike her sister," my mom declared. Sydney was born when my mom was 47, so she was overly obsessed with her. At the same time, her dislike for me only grew worse. "Victoria, you're the older sister, so go change Sydney's diapers," she'd say. My mom, who was unemployed and spent her days watching Korean dramas, started bossing me around nonstop. My life became miserable. Sydney turned out to be very smart and got into an expensive private kindergarten. By then, I had a job, but I didn't earn much. Without a partner to support me like my mom had, I had no choice but to keep living at home. I barely spoke to my family and lived like a stranger in my own house. Then a big event happened 9 years ago when I was 31. It was a day I'll never forget. We went on a family outing to an amusement park, but it only felt like a family in name. My wealthy stepfather drove us there in his Porsche, and during the ride, they were busy praising Sydney. "Sydney, you did so well on the entrance exam for that prestigious elementary school. Congratulations on getting in," my stepfather said. "I can't believe she's my daughter. One day, she'll become a great leader and take care of us." Sydney replied confidently, "Yes, I'll do my best to make you both proud, Mom and Dad." Sydney was incredibly smart, and it was clear she met all their expectations. Her cleverness was surprising, especially considering who her parents were. "I can't wait to see what you achieve, Sydney. Unlike your sister," my stepfather added. "I won't be like Victoria," Sydney said with a smirk. The car was filled with laughter from my mom and stepfather. I just sat there, frozen. Sydney's sharp words reminded me so much of my mother. At the amusement park, the day didn't get any better. We went to ride the roller coaster, but my mom, stepfather, and Sydney went first and left me to ride alone. As I nervously waited, they teased me. "It's not like you're going to fall," my stepfather said. "But life has already brought you down, hasn't it? How pathetic to have a sister like you," Sydney added. Later, at the haunted house, they did the same thing. They all went ahead, leaving me behind to walk through it alone. When I finally came out, trembling, they were waiting for me at the exit, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. While I was scared in the haunted house, Sydney mocked me again. "There's no such thing as ghosts, but honestly, you look like one," she sneered. "It's so embarrassing to have a sister like you." Their constant teasing was enough to make me want to cut ties with them, but the final straw came during the car ride home. "I need to use the restroom," I said nervously. "It's only 40 more minutes to get home." "Just hold it," my stepfather replied. "Why don't you just stop and let her go in the bushes?" my mom suggested, laughing. "Ew, I'm so embarrassed to have a sister who does things like that," Sydney chimed in. At that point, my frustration boiled over. Suddenly, my stepfather slammed on the brakes. "What's wrong?" my mom asked. "Sorry, I thought I saw an animal and didn't want to hit it," he said, glancing at the stuffed toy he had mistaken for something alive. But the sudden stop caused me to lose control for a moment, and a bit leaked out. The smell filled the car. "What are you doing at your age?" my stepfather snapped. "You've dirted my Porsche." "Gross."
Sydney joined in.
Victoria peed herself. How embarrassing. I felt humiliated but stayed silent, ready to admit my mistake. Then my stepfather said something that broke me completely. "Sydney is my only daughter. I've never really seen you as a stepdaughter, let alone a sister to Sydney. Honestly, you're more like her aunt or something," he said coldly. "This smell is unbearable. Everything about you is unbearable." My mom added, "I don't want to see that face of yours anymore. You remind me too much of your father." Sydney laughed. "Good. From now on, I'm an only child. That makes me happy." I couldn't take it anymore. "Is this what you all really think? Fine. I'll leave," I yelled. And that was it. My patience was gone. I packed up my things and left the luxurious apartment where I had been living. I moved into a small, shabby apartment. It wasn't much, but at least I was free from that toxic family. The new apartment was old and falling apart. Looking back, I should have saved more money before leaving so I could have moved somewhere better. My days there were lonely and gloomy, but I had no choice. One day, out of the blue, I received a letter from someone I hadn't heard from in years, my dad. In the letter, he apologized for losing contact and said that although life was tough, he was doing okay. "Dad," I whispered as I read his words. "It wasn't just me struggling, was it? You were the only decent one in the whole family. I want to see you," I thought to myself. Was he the one who always took care of me? Yes, that was him, my dad. By the way, I haven't mentioned this before, but I have a fiancé named Jake. We met at a networking event and now live together in a small apartment. Jake works a steady job while chasing his own dreams, and he's never judged me for my difficult past. Instead, he's been my biggest support. Even though our apartment is simple, Jake moved in happily and never complained about it. "Why don't you go see your real father?" Jake suggested one evening. "There's an address on the envelope." "I want to, but he hasn't said he wants to see me. I think I should wait until he reaches out first." "Really? That feels like a missed opportunity," Jake replied. "I feel the same," I admitted. "But he might have a new family now. I've decided to wait until he's ready to meet." "How about this?" Jake said. "You don't have to meet him directly. Maybe just seeing him from a distance will be enough." "That's a good idea," I said, feeling a little more hopeful. I haven't seen him in 16 years. He's probably aged a lot, but I'll recognize him if he's my dad. Then again, he might be surprised by how much I've changed. "You've grown a lot since then. Maybe this is the perfect time," Jake encouraged. That weekend, I decided to check on my dad. I didn't plan to knock on his door or anything. Instead, I would watch from a nearby diner. Thanks to Google Maps, I found a diner right across from his apartment. Technology really is helpful these days. When I arrived, I saw his building. It looked a lot like the apartment I live in, old and simple. My dad always dreamed of becoming a cartoon artist, but it seemed he hadn't achieved that goal. Becoming a cartoon artist isn't easy, and I couldn't help but feel sad. Why does someone as kind and hardworking as my dad struggle, while someone like Sydney gets everything handed to her? "Hey, is that him?" Jake asked, pointing outside. He looks like the photo you showed me. I turned to look. Yes, that's him. It's really been a long time. But as I watched, my heart sank. My dad didn't look like someone who was doing well. His hair was messy, his clothes were wrinkled, and he looked tired and worn out. He sat by the window, sketching endlessly, but there was a heaviness about him, as if he was carrying years of disappointment. "Oh, he looks so down," Jake said softly. "It's tough to see him like this." I nodded, trying to keep my emotions in check. "It's hard to watch." He seemed stuck, drawing and facing failure after failure. Even though he didn't look successful, to me, he was still my dad, the person who had always been there for me. But seeing him like this made my heart ache even more. I have dreams too, so I can understand how my dad must feel. I remember him as someone who, even without much money or a happy family life, always shone brightly. But now, it's clear he's been through a lot. "Today's drinks are half price," the waitress said as she approached. "Oh, sorry," I mumbled, snapping out of my thoughts. Seeing my dad like that had left me too shaken. I decided to leave the diner without ordering anything. If I had known it would feel this way, I wouldn't have come to check on him. I thought I wanted to see him, but only if he was doing well. "Why don't you write him a simple letter?" Jake suggested as we walked home. "See how he responds." "I don't know," I replied. His first letter was so short, and from how he looked, he doesn't seem to have much going on. He probably doesn't have a new family either. He just seems lonely. Poor dad. I felt a deep sadness as we got back to the apartment. I opened the mailbox, but what I found shocked me even more than seeing my dad. "There's a letter here," I said, holding it up. "Who's it from?" Jake asked. "It's from Mom."
What?
Jake's eyes widened. "From the mom who made your life miserable? Isn't this the first time she's reached out since you moved out?" "Yes," I said, still staring at the envelope. "It's been 9 years since I left. Why would she want to contact me now?" "What does it say?" Jake asked. I opened the letter, and its contents left me speechless. "She wants to visit me," I said finally.
What?
Jake looked just as confused as I felt.
Why now?
"Why would she want to come to your house?" "I have no idea," I said. "It doesn't make sense. Maybe she regrets how she treated me." Jake shrugged. "It's possible. Maybe she feels bad about what she did." "I don't think so," I said firmly. "Remember the car incident and how she threw me out? Someone like her doesn't change easily." "Still, there must be a reason," Jake said thoughtfully. "What if she's sick or doesn't have much time left?" I paused at the thought. "If that's true, it's sad," I admitted. "Even after everything, if she's sick, maybe I should sympathize with her. But how did she even find my address?" Jake frowned. "You didn't give it to her, right? Or to your stepfather or Sydney?"
Of course not, I said.
"But somehow, she knows where I live. It's unsettling. Could she have hired someone to find me?" "Maybe it's simpler than that," Jake said. "She might have used a family registry. Parents can get that kind of information." "That's true," I said, feeling uneasy. "She could definitely do something like that." "So, is it true that she wants to come here?" Jake asked.
"Yes," I said.
"She says she wants to visit next week." "That's pretty soon," Jake said. "It sounds urgent." "She's always been unpredictable, but there must be a specific reason this time." "Maybe she's sick," I said quietly. "Or maybe something serious has happened. Even though she's my mom, it's hard to believe she's suddenly changed." I didn't want to meet my mom, but it was hard to say no, so I reluctantly agreed. "All right, I'll meet her," I told Jake. "But I'm not excited about it. Will you stay with me? I need to introduce you." "Of course," Jake said. "I've been waiting for the chance to meet her, whenever you're ready." Finally, the day came, the first time I would see my mom in 9 years. The night before, I was so nervous I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining how it would go. "She's definitely going to show up in flashy clothes like she used to," I told Jake. "And then she'll say something like, 'Oh, so this is the simple little place you're living in?'" "That doesn't sound like something a mom would say," Jake replied. "You've never met her," I said. That's exactly her personality. Honestly, I just wanted the visit to be over quickly. Deep down, I didn't want her to come at all. It was such a complicated feeling. And then the doorbell rang. My heart raced as I walked to the door. I hesitated for a moment before looking through the peephole.
What I saw shocked me. Mom?
I whispered. Open the door, Jake said gently. She came all this way, but the woman standing outside wasn't the flamboyant, confident mom I remembered. She was thin, almost frail, and dressed in plain, simple clothes. She looked nothing like her old self. What happened to her? I wondered aloud. Could she be seriously ill? When I opened the door, she looked at me with teary eyes. Victoria, it's been so long. I really wanted to see you.
Mom, what's going on?
I asked, still stunned. You've lost so much weight and your clothes. Are you sick? I was overwhelmed, but what happened next left me completely speechless. My mom bowed her head and apologized.
Victoria, I was wrong, she said.
I want to apologize for everything I did to you in the past. Please forgive me.
What?
I said, confused. Why are you apologizing out here? Lift your head and come inside. I let her in, still feeling awkward and unsure. After we sat down, I introduced Jake to her. She exchanged polite small talk with him, but soon she started to open up about why she had come. Actually, I've been having a lot of problems with your stepfather, she admitted.
What?
I said, surprised. You two always seemed so close. I didn't expect that. It was hard to believe. They had always been united, making my life miserable. Now, she looked broken, and I didn't know what could have caused such a change. What happened between you two? I asked, still trying to process this unexpected turn of events. I couldn't even think straight. Mom, please just explain what happened.
Try to keep it simple, I said.
Take your time, there's no rush. Just speak calmly, Jake added. My mom began explaining. It turns out my stepfather got involved in a scam and was eventually arrested. I knew he was a problematic person, but I never thought he'd do something like that. So, what's happening with him now?
I asked.
He's out on bail, my mom replied.
That must have been so hard for you, I said.
She nodded. Back when we met, he used to approach me at nightclubs, selling surefire bets on gambling and stocks. I always wondered how he had so much money, even though he wasn't a particularly charming bartender. Now it makes sense. Hearing this, I realized how much stress my mom had been under. She didn't look like her old self at all. At least it wasn't a serious illness. That was one small relief.
I can't believe this, I said.
I thought he was strange, but not to this level. I really underestimated how bad it was.
She sighed.
By trusting someone like him, I caused you so much pain. Well, that's all in the past now, I said, though it felt strange to comfort her after everything. I was already overwhelmed by what she told me, but there was more to come. How's Sydney doing?
I asked.
She's the daughter of a man who was arrested for fraud, right? She went to a prestigious school. Has this affected hers? Yes, my mom said. Because of her father's arrest, she had to drop out. She's now studying at a public school with ordinary kids. Ordinary kids, I repeated. Despite all the trouble Sydney caused me, I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for her. She had worked so hard to get into that school, only to lose it all because of her father's crimes. There's something else I need to tell you about Sydney, my mom said hesitantly. I felt uneasy. What is it? She's not actually the real daughter of the man who was arrested, my mom admitted.
What?
I said, shocked. What does that mean? When I was going to nightclubs regularly, I fell in love with your stepfather, she explained. But I also had relationships with other bartenders. One of them, who worked as a university researcher during the day and bartended at night to make extra money, turned out to be Sydney's biological father. I was stunned. That's unbelievable, I said. I always thought there was something different about Sydney. She didn't seem like either of you. She's intelligent and sharp, but I never imagined this. Yes, my mom said. Her biological father is very smart and good-looking, which explains why Sydney is so cute. Does he know about this? I asked. Yes, he knows, my mom admitted. I couldn't believe the tangled mess of lies and secrets my family was built on. Every new detail was more shocking than the last. When I confronted my mom about the fraud, she brushed it off, saying, "You must be hiding something too." "Wow, that's a huge problem," Jake said. It turned out my stepfather had started noticing that Sydney didn't look like him. Suspicious, he hired a detective and discovered the truth right before his arrest. My mom laughed as she told me this. "Laughable?" I asked, shocked. "Is this really something to laugh about? A stepfather arrested for fraud, a mother who had affairs and lied about her daughter's father. It's unbelievable. This is the reality of our family." At that moment, I realized I still didn't understand why she had come to see me. "So, why are you really here today?" I asked. "Oh, right, I almost forgot," my mom said casually. "I mentioned earlier that he's out on bail, didn't I?" "Yes, I remember," I said, still suspicious. "Well, the bail was much higher than expected, and we're struggling financially. So, I came to ask if you could lend me some money." I was completely stunned. I had been worried about her, thinking she might be seriously ill. But this was why she came? I couldn't help but think how foolish I was to feel sympathy for her. This was exactly the kind of person she'd always been. The reason she no longer dressed lavishly or enjoyed fancy meals wasn't because of regret or illness. It was because she was broke from her husband's scams. Despite everything, she had no intention of divorcing him. I felt my anger boiling over. "Wait a second," I said sharply. "After making my life miserable and kicking me out of the house, now you come asking me for money?
How can you even say that?"
"But I apologized, didn't I?" she replied, as if that solved everything. "We're family, Victoria. And families should help each other in tough times." "Family?" I snapped. "When have you ever acted like a mother to me?" "Calm down," she said, ignoring my frustration. "By the way, how much do you earn? Let me see your bank book." That was the last straw. My anger exploded. The same woman who had thrown me out years ago was now shamelessly asking for my financial help. This time, I was the one throwing her out. Despite Jake trying to mediate, I pushed her out the door with her belongings. I was so angry, I barely remember what happened after that. A week later, still reeling from that nightmarish encounter, I checked the mailbox and found another letter from my father. Feeling uneasy, I opened it with Jake beside me. "What does it say?" Jake asked. "Is your dad planning to show up too, like your mom?" "No, it's not that," I said, my eyes widening as I read. Incredibly, the letter revealed that my dad had finally achieved his dream of becoming a cartoon artist. He had made his debut, and his work had been a success. Not only that, but his cartoon was being adapted into both a TV series and a live-action movie. "Dad, congratulations," I whispered, overwhelmed with pride and happiness. I couldn't believe such wonderful things were happening. It felt unreal. After so many years of hard work, my dad's efforts had finally paid off, and the results were amazing. I wanted to tell him directly how proud and happy I was, so I immediately wrote back to his letter, expressing my excitement and asking if we could meet. Not long after, I received his reply. He agreed to meet and wrote, "Let's meet next week. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. I have so much to share. It would be our first reunion in 16 years. Would it be okay if I came along?" Jake asked. "Of course," I said. "He'll be so happy to meet you." When the day finally came, we went to my dad's apartment. As I reached out to ring the doorbell, I heard the voices of children and a woman from inside. I paused, feeling a little confused. When the door opened, there he was, my dad. "Victoria, it's been such a long time. You've grown into a fine young woman. And this must be your fiancé, Jake. You've chosen well," he said warmly. "It's been so long, Dad," I said, smiling. "But what are those voices I heard inside?" He hesitated for a moment and then said, "I'm sorry, I didn't tell you earlier. Actually, I've remarried." I had a feeling this might be the case, but hearing it confirmed still surprised me. We decided to go to a nearby diner, the same one I had visited before, and took our time catching up. This time we sat down, ate, and talked without rushing. Being with my dad after so many years felt like stepping back in time. The warmth and nostalgia of our conversation made it even more special. "Dad, congratulations on your debut as a cartoon artist," I said with pride. "And the adaptations, both the cartoon and the movie. That's an incredible achievement." "Thank you," he said, his face lighting up. "It's what saved me. I was ready to give up if it didn't work out this time. In fact, I even quit my job to focus on this challenge."
"What?"
"What would you have done if it hadn't worked out?" I asked, shocked. "Did your wife agree to that?" He laughed nervously. "Well, it worked out in the end, didn't it? But there were some tense moments at home because of it." He explained that the reason he hadn't reached out earlier was because he wasn't sure how things would turn out with his career as a cartoon artist. He wanted to wait until he felt more stable and confident in his success. "When I saw you watching me that day," he said, "I was at a low point. My wife had temporarily left with the kids because of the financial stress. I felt broken."
"But you made it through," I said.
"Yes," he said, smiling. "Once my debut was confirmed and I started earning good royalties, I decided to move to a better apartment. My wife and children forgave me and came back home. After everything you've faced, you've finally succeeded," I said, feeling both happy and proud. "Now I can finally give my family the good life they deserve," he said with a contented smile. Hearing this made me realize how far he had come, overcoming so many challenges to achieve his dream. It was inspiring and gave me hope for the future. "I wasn't the best father before," my dad said, looking regretful, "but maybe this success can make up for some of my past mistakes." "It's not about being perfect, Dad," I replied. "I've always loved you. The struggles you faced were mostly because of Mom." Hearing that, I decided to tell him about my mom's shocking past. Even though he had once understood her better than anyone, he was stunned by what I revealed. He looked at me in disbelief, struggling to process it all. "Well," he said after a pause, "I guess I wasn't completely wrong about her." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I always wondered why I married your mother," he admitted. "But I think I know now. When I first met her, I saw the flaws in her personality, and I thought I could use those traits as material for my cartoon stories." Hearing him say that, I couldn't help but admire his honesty and passion for his art. "Dad, you've come such a long way," I said. Then, turning to Jake, my dad said, "Jake, I know I'm not a perfect father-in-law, but I hope you'll continue to support us." Jake smiled warmly.
"Don't worry about that."
"Thank you, and congratulations on achieving your dream. I'm so happy for you, and hope you find even more success in the future." Things seemed to be going well, and I thought I could finally leave the past behind. But when I got back to my apartment, I was met with a shocking sight. My mother, the same woman I had thrown out before, was standing outside, with her troublesome husband and a girl who looked like she was in middle school. I stared at her, stunned. "Is that Sydney, all grown up?" I asked in disbelief. "Why are you acting like this, Victoria?" my mom snapped. "That attitude toward your mother is unacceptable. You're just as unpleasant as ever." "Unbelievable," I muttered. "What are you even doing here?" Her husband chimed in. "Quiet down, everyone. This is a public space. Let's go inside." Once they were inside, I tried to stay calm, but it wasn't easy. "Why are you here?" I asked firmly. There was a moment of silence before my mom said, "There's been some trouble. There are rumors about fraud involving me and my husband. But it's just gossip. Nothing has been confirmed." Her husband quickly added, "It's all just a misunderstanding. Some small mistake at the nightclub blew up into something bigger." "So, are you being questioned by prosecutors now?" I asked sharply. "Well, yes," my mom admitted. "But it's nothing serious. I'm sure it'll blow over." I shook my head, exhausted by the endless chaos she brought into my life. "Please, enough already. I hope this doesn't interfere with my wedding. And just so we're clear, you're not invited." Her husband frowned. "What kind of daughter talks to her mother like that? You're her biological child. It's only natural for you to help out a little. We need money to hire a lawyer." "That's right," my mom said, jumping in. "You're my daughter, and that means you have a responsibility to help me And you're my real sister, Sydney added smugly, as if that would make a difference. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Their true motive was painfully clear. They only cared about getting money from me. I don't care about their futures anymore. Maybe it's harsh to say, but don't you think you're asking too much from me? I said firmly.
What?
Who cares what an outsider like you thinks? My mom's husband snapped at Jake. You're just a regular employee. What makes you think you have any right to talk? People like you are so annoying. Hearing this, I was furious. But before I could respond, the situation took an unexpected turn. Excuse me for speaking up, Jake said calmly, but like Victoria's father, I have big ambitions. Even though I'm almost 41, my dream is to pass the bar exam and become a prosecutor. My stepfather scoffed. That's a noble dream, but I doubt someone like you can make it happen. I couldn't take it anymore. Just as I was about to throw the glass of water I was holding at them, Jake gently grabbed my hand and stopped me. I aspire to be a prosecutor because my father works as one in the prosecutor's office, Jake added confidently. The room went silent. Their smug attitudes instantly shifted. Wait, is that true? My mom asked, clearly surprised. Please, Jake, could you ask your father to help us? My husband isn't a bad person, and I'm not involved in any fraud. Even Sydney chimed in. You're my brother-in-law, right? Please listen to what we're asking for. I had heard enough. Without saying much more, I resolutely decided it was time to kick them out. They had no place in my life anymore. A few days later, I attended a party hosted by a publishing house to celebrate my father's new book release. My father, his new wife, and their children were there, and it felt so different from the life I had left behind. How's your mother doing now? Someone at the party asked me. We've cut ties, I said simply. That family doesn't matter to me anymore. That's a strong decision, they replied, but I can't blame you. My father's book was based on a cartoon he had drawn about my mother. The story was about a controlling housewife whose strange behavior caused everyone around her to avoid her. The unique theme had caught the attention of a publisher and led to his success. Actually, I told them. She contacted me recently, claiming the book was based on her and demanding to be paid for it. Unbelievable, they said, shaking their head. She really hasn't changed. No, I replied. Cutting ties was the right decision. Later, I found out my stepfather had been prosecuted and sentenced to life in prison for his fraud schemes. As for my mom, she started working as a hostess at a bar connected to the nightclub where her husband had worked. It was her first real job. Sydney, meanwhile, continued her studies in the local community, working hard for a better future. As for me, Jake and I built a strong bond with my father's new family. We eventually moved into the beautiful apartment my father now owned, sharing a life filled with peace and happiness. We're excited about what lies ahead, especially the day Jake achieves his dream of becoming a prosecutor.